Welcome to the Private Property Farming Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Today you're joined, I'm coming up live, sorry to say, but yeah, today I'm live and I'm writing solo. And today's topic will be on 4 tips on how to grow your farming business. And these are just general tips, but I really think that they come in handy and every farmer should have. And I know this is definitely how I've grown my agribusiness Green Terrace over the past years. And so I hope you find these 4 tips quite helpful. Again, I must emphasize that this recording is live, therefore please participate by asking any questions that you would like me to answer. And yeah, I hope I can assist you if you're starting out your farming journey or if you're growing your farm and you need some advice in terms of how do you move from one level to the next. I hope this video will be informative for you. And if you're unable to watch the full episode of the video, please catch this podcast live on all private property platforms. But most importantly, post the video, it will be released on their private property platform, YouTube channel to be specific, where you can also just engage and ask any additional questions that you may have. But yeah, let's get right into today's show. And once again, the topic is how to grow your farming business. And I'm providing 4 tips that could assist you to scale as a farmer, irrespective of what commodity you're farming. That could be grains, livestock, herbs, fruits, vegetables, poultry as well. So in any type of commodity that you're farming, I definitely think that these 4 tips will assist you. So the first one is seeking the advice of an agronomist. So I think this maybe would be applicable to vegetable or fruit farmers, any horticultural farmers or grain farmers, open field crops, is that you need to enlist the services of an agronomist. What an agronomist basically does is he or she will analyze your water and soil samples that will be necessary for your production. So they will then, from that analysis of your water and soil sample, then they will then tell you what are the right crops to produce on this particular land and what you need to do on your water. If there is anything to do with, if there's anything that you need to do, for example, leveling the pH of the water, identifying any water disease, diseases in your water, they will advise in terms of how you make your water more pure or purified rather, for you to be able to use that water for your production. So an agronomist will look at your soil and water analysis. Furthermore, they will make recommendations based on that soil and water analysis. So for example, they would then say, okay, if you want to farm cabbage, for example, this is the season in which you need to plant, these are the months in which you need to plant, and maybe even in specific dates. And then they will provide a growing plan, or sometimes what I call a recipe, in terms of what chemicals or fertilizers you need to put to ensure that you get the expected yield of your cabbage, for example, at the end of the season. So then they will then determine if you have how much in terms of milliliters or kilograms you need to put of nitrogen, potassium, phosphate, boron, whatever's needed to really go into your production. They would then advise the right chemicals. Then what you would then need to do is that take that analysis to an input supplier, so any chemical or fertilizer companies that you are procuring from, then you would then give them that list and say, I need to get these type of materials or items, and this is what you're going to be using for your production. Sometimes agronomists do come from chemical companies or seed companies or fertilizer companies, so they do have this in-house, but you need to then remember that they will typically recommend products that they're currently using within their organization. So so it will add in as additional value add. So you'll have to buy those products or chemicals in-house, or seek the chemicals from a different supplier. So they will just give you a recipe of what you need to put in your soil, how you're going to grow those how you're going to grow your crops to ensure that you get the maximum yield or output. And then you just need to follow the program in essence. And if there's any insects that you find on your plants, you can take a picture of that, send it through to your agronomist, and they will let you know what type of pest you have on your crop or disease that you have on your crop. Now, going to your livestock farmers or those that are doing poultry, cattle, goats, sheep, there is an agronomist that you can also seek the services of. I'm not quite sure what they called in that specific area, but for example, you can enlist the services of an agronomist as well, because sometimes with cattle or livestock, you need to substitute your feeding program by growing your own feed, for example. This is just to minimize some costs, and this is what a number of farmers do. So with that, the agronomist will then tell you this is the right cultivar for your animal feed, etc. And then you'd need to then maybe go plow some maize, or grow some grass, so that it could supplement your feeding program for your animals. But then the next step, so moving on from an agronomist, so I think before I move on, let me just wrap up the purpose and the importance of an agronomist. Basically, they analyze your soil and water samples and give recommendations based on that. You then tell them what you anticipate to grow on your land, and then they'll provide a recipe on the different chemicals and fertilizers that you need to use to ensure that you receive the maximum yield or output for that specific crop. You can buy or purchase those chemicals or fertilizers directly from where the agronomist works, or the same company that they work in, or if they're independent, you could go and approach a different company where you can procure those chemicals and fertilizers, and then you just follow the program. So for example, it would say week 1, it's all about stabilizing the root or strengthening the root. Therefore, you need to add this amount of chemicals or fertilizers in your crops. Then every 2 weeks, you have to follow the program. So that's basically how a growing program looks like, to ensure that you get the maximum yield for that specific crop. Now, the second part, or the second service that you need to grow your farm is have a good relationship with your input suppliers. So these would be the professionals who are technical reps in chemicals or fertilizers. So they are trained from whichever organization they come from to give you advice on specific chemicals or fertilizers that needs to be used on your growing program. So technical reps also have the right amount of knowledge in terms of different crop varieties and what chemicals or fertilizers need to be used on these specific varieties. So that could be, for example, it could be a rep that is maybe experiencing different chemicals, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides for your crops. And then they would say, okay, you need, if you're experiencing X amount of weed problems or this type of weed, then we would recommend this type of product to use. Spray on a day that is maybe sunny or partly cloudy, or when there's minimal chances of rain in the next few days, etc. Whatever recommendations they give you, test them out and just follow that to the T, because they know what products they have that could assist you in ensuring that your production runs quite efficiently. So you need to really develop a strong relationship with these individuals. They typically or generally manage certain geographical areas, and they do farm visits every week or every day specific to that location that they'll be focusing on that time. So because of their vast knowledge, simply because they travel often and assist and give good advice to many farmers, they understand at different seasons what type of pests usually come about, and with different crops and varieties of crops, what type of pests typically are attracted to that specific crop. So you need to ensure that the relationship that you have with the technical rep is quite strong. And again, if you identify any certain pests or diseases on that crop, you can take a picture, send it to your rep and say, I'm experiencing black spotting or white spotting or powdery mildew on my leaves. What do? I've followed my program to a T, but I'm still experiencing this type of problem. The rep will then maybe schedule a visit to come through to your farm, take a sample of that specific leaf, and provide a recommendation in terms of what you need to do going forward. If they're unable to reach your area in that specific time, because sometimes, at the farm, you really need to correct a specific issue that you're dealing with right there and there. Otherwise, the disease or the pest will just spread throughout the different areas of the farm. And you don't want that, because at the end of the day, you will jeopardize your production and lose your crop. So this is the reason why I say have your technical rep on speed dial, have a good relationship with them. They need to know what you're producing or what you're growing on the farm, so that they can assist you accordingly. So when having a good relationship with them, they can even inform you in terms of which type of products are registered or deregistered within that specific season. So if you didn't know, you can't use every single chemical on every single crop. There are specific chemicals that are registered to be used on specific crop. This all ties down to food safety regulations. And you need to ensure that as a farmer, you're producing ethically or sustainably, and that the food that you're consuming or the cattle that you're raising at the end of the day are safe for human consumption. So generally, technical reps would be the ideal individuals to give you information on this. So then, for example, if you are using a specific chemical on your peppers and the next season that chemical is deregistered, the technical rep must say, okay, that product is really not allowed to be used at once anymore. So therefore, this is a new product that is in the market. It will maybe control X, Y, and Z type of disease, and will ensure that your peppers are still grown at the expected yields or amount that you want to have at the end of the production cycle. So the reps are really quite knowledgeable in the information that they give you, because they do a number of trainings every single month or year or quarter, depending on the organization. And they also have good relationships with their own internal research and development departments. So companies always do trials for the seeds or the chemicals or the fertilizers that they're going to bring into a new market. So they then will give you this information and say, this is a registered product that you could use on a specific crop. This is a deregistered product. This is the amount that you need to use. And then they will also give you training as well as your workers. I mean, it depends on terms of your relationship. Once again, I must emphasize that some of them will just give a 30-minute training or just a lesson to yourself as a farmer, as well as your farm worker, to say, this is how you use this chemical to protect yourself that is using that chemical. So you don't want it touching your skin or your eyes, etc. So they can assist you in reading and interpreting the chemical labels on that specific product. So I must emphasize, so from the agronomist to the input suppliers, they could work hand in hand. You could bounce off ideas with both of these individuals. And these 4 tips really come in a way that, you need these individuals if you're farming. Simply like as a business, when you're starting or growing a business, what they'll normally say is that you need an accountant, a financer, a marketer, a legal team in your speed dial to ensure that your business thrives, so that whatever challenges that you receive or encounter whilst you're doing business, you have these 4 or 5 individuals to bounce back on it and give you professional advice. So the same that you'll have with the accountants and the lawyers, etc., these 4 will then also apply from a farming aspect. So we've touched on agronomists, we've touched on technical reps from an input supplier perspective. The other one is, and this is completely up to you as a farmer, but depending on what type of commodity or how the commodity or the crop that you're growing and how it's regulated. For example, if you're a maize farmer, you generally get the prices are not controlled by you as a farmer. You get that information from industry organizations or bodies, also from private companies, but those prices are controlled by the suffix prices, so that determines the price of your crops. So it's important, I think, for a farmer to also belong to industry affiliated organizations or farmer organizations or what we know in South Africa as farmer cooperatives. So in these groups, a number of farmers are also present in these groups, and they would be farming the same commodity or similar commodities that you're farming to. It's important to be part of farmer organizations is the following. They give you up-to-date industry trends and prices, and an updated industry economic outlook of what the next few seasons would look like for that specific commodity that you're farming, and therefore what you can expect as a farmer and how the economy can either positively or negatively affect your farming production. So you could leverage off of these information that industry organizations give you, and therefore you can make strategic advice that goes back into your farm to say, how do I position myself in the next quarter, in the next season, in the next year, based on this information that I'm getting. They would give you up-to-date information in terms of what's happening in and around your area, the rainfall, drought. They would pass on any relief fund measures that may be applicable to your farm. They could provide any updated stats on auctions, when's the right time or the worst time to start selling your livestock, etc., or harvesting your maize, etc., and what are the prices going forward. So farmer organizations or cooperatives are quite key because you kept abreast as a farmer on the industry as a whole. At the end of the day, as a farmer, you need to really focus on your production, focus on your farm and what's happening in your farm, so that you could get the right prices at the end of the day of your harvest, or once you've raised your chickens or your eggs or whatever the case might be. You need to prioritize and your work to your farm. And the benefit of being part of farmer organizations or agri organizations is that they work as a support structure to your business. And so you don't have to worry about, finding out the maize price, what was the price for example, green peppers on the specific day, etc. So this information, they manage it and they'll send it through to you via SMS, WhatsApp, or via email, whichever form of communication they use. They will inform you in terms of what's happening in the industry that is relevant to you and how you could use this information to become a better farmer at the end of the day, or grow your farm business at the end of the day. So farmer organizations really are an extension of your business as a farmer, if you could look at that way. So some of them could be being part of the Agri-SA industry affiliated organizations. So this could be, depending on what province you're in. I know I'm a Gauteng-based farmer or Joburg-based farmer. There's Gauteng, there's a farmer organization under Agri-SA that is specific to Gauteng, and similarly the rest could apply to each province. Some of them could be your Senvest, your Senvest, Saidvest. I always confuse myself with those two. What's NWK. And quite a number of them. So just check online with which farmer organization specific to your commodity is best for your area. And just reach out to them, find out how you can become a member. And also there's ones for vegetables. There's one, like, for example, potato SA, onion SA. If you're growing those specific commodities, they will tell you which are the best varieties to use in whichever area that you're in. And you'll always get industry statistics. And also they could link you up to other farmers as well. So that's another a value add for being part of these organizations. Even going to the livestock one as well, you can, reach out to Poultry SA if you're a poultry farmer. You could reach out to NERPO, which is NERPO. I just won't say the full title because I'm afraid that I might miss a word or two, but it's NERPO, the Red Meat Producers Red Meat Producers Association. These are the different type of organizations where you as a farmer, specific to what you're growing or cultivating, can leverage off and become a member of. So just reach out to them and find out just how they work, etc. The other one is that when you're a farmer, I always tell this to individuals that really want to start farming and be part of a community. So over and above joining or being part of farmer organizations, I always encourage individuals to also befriend or network with other farmers. They could be farmers in your specific area. They could be farmers that you're reading about online or just saw on a TV or a newspaper article or online magazine that is farming or growing what you're growing. Reach out to those farmers, find out their successes, their challenges in their specific farms or geographic areas. And you find that even if they've been farming for many years before ahead of you, or have just started out, you could learn a thing or two from their experiences. And you know, business is quite a lonely journey. They say entrepreneurship is quite a lonely journey. And yeah, that's the same in farming. Sometimes you might encounter challenges or a crisis at the farm that you're really not sure how to tackle or manage. But if you've got farmer friends in the nearby community or in the area that you're farming, that you could you know, give a call and say, I'm experiencing this problem. It could be something on a borehole or a security issue or an employee issue, whatever the case might be. You know, just bounce off those ideas to them, tell them your challenges, and they would give you the right advice. So as a farmer, I just always encourage to never farm alone. You know, drive around, meet new farmers. You'll get a wealth of information, but also be quite wary, because sometimes getting too much information could influence you as a farmer in terms of what to do or what not to do in your farm. So at the end of the day, whatever information you receive on how to improve your farm or your cultivation practices from farmers, you need to make the decision to say, does this tie into my business strategy? Is this in alignment with my culture within my farm, or how we work or how we do things on the farm? Make that decision by yourself, okay? So and just make it work for you and not against you. And also you could give advice to other farmers, because you might find that the journey that you have walked could also assist another farmer. So if you're constantly part of a farmer group, it could be formal, it could be informal. Really, if you just have different farmers at your speed dial, I think you're at a much better position to grow your farm, because they could become as a support structure over and above your employees or your mentors or your other administrative individuals that act as a support structure in your business. Those farmers could be a great value add into your farming practices. Also, they might not be farming or growing or they might not be in the same line of what you're doing, but they might know another farmer, so they can connect you to other farmers. And you know what? You have to just be creative in terms of how you establish and form these relationships. You know, you could reach out to them for something quite minimal, you know, or you could just work together and say, okay, I spend X amount of petrol or diesel every month. How can we reduce our costs? Or I spend X amount of seeds. Are you also growing maize, for example? Let's go buy seeds at the same place to get discounted rates. Whatever the thing might be, I think it's important to have different farmers within your network that could assist you in your farming journey or your farming career and growing your agribusiness. So just to run them down again, have the services or enlist the services of an agronomist. Usually, sometimes the services come for free. If they work for an organization, they would give you the right growing plan to use, and then you would just have to buy the chemicals or the fertilizers in-house, and that is completely up to you. You could use those recommendations or not use them, or seek a second or third opinion. Also, establish and form good relationship with input suppliers. These are the technical seed reps, chemical reps, fertilizer reps. They will give you the right information to say, this is the specific cultivar that you need to use on your farm based on this growing program or based on your geographic area. This is the amount of yields that you need to be expecting. So you can benchmark in terms of, am I succeeding or not? This is the right chemicals that you need to use, and these are the registered chemicals that I need to use on your crops, for example. Furthermore, they would tell you when to spray those chemicals or how to use those chemicals, and also give training to your employees that are handling those chemicals, just so that they can maintain a safe use of those products. Especially in your production. And then again, what you can do, this is totally optional, but I highly encourage it, especially if you're growing crops that are really controlled by the industry and you're part of a bigger group or network. Form part of farmer organizations. You get a wealth of information from an economic outlook point of view. You can also leverage off accessing certain funds that are specific to farming. So for example, drought relief funds, you could benefit or gain if you're part of industry or agri associations or agri cooperatives or farmer group networks. So I know on the ground, people use different jargons, and that's why I'm pointing out the different terminologies. So yeah, being part of farmer organizations helps, because you know that you're part of an entire group or entire team or a bigger network of farmers and corporates who have an interest in agriculture, or other businesses really that play along the value chain. All of these companies will assist you. If you're struggling with access to market, for example, you could leverage off your network in that farmer organization that you're part of or a member of, and they could assist you with finding the right type of clients for your business. The last one is also, have a good farmer network that you could rely on. These could be a network of farmers in and around your area or in different geographic regions that are maybe farming the same or similar commodities that you're farming. There's a wealth of information that you could learn from there. So I see that we've got a few questions. I just want to maybe address some of them, and thank you so much for the questions, just by the way. So now we've got one from Avumile. When planting butternuts is watering a necessity. So I think Avumile is trying to find out here, when you're producing or growing butternuts, when is watering a necessity? So Avumile, again, I think with the feedback or recommendation that you would get from your agronomist, they will tell you in terms of firstly, they will recommend the right cultivar for the butternuts to use, and they'll tell you which seed companies you would buy that cultivar from. Once you start producing it or planting it, they will give you the correct recommendation of when and how to grow those butternuts. So it won't just be limited to the typical chemicals or fertilizers that you need to use, but then they would say, for example, this butternut during production, you need to water, for example, 2 liters per hour, if I could say, or water X amount of liters per hour every morning or midday or afternoon. So water is a definite key essential in any form of production, especially crop production, because it's quite intensive. You need water to grow your crops. So then the agronomist will then tell you this is the amount of water that you need to water on your specific butternuts. And also you can also find that information from the seed companies where you're buying the butternuts from. So again, going back to cultivar or varieties, they will tell you which cultivar or variety is good in that specific area. And then they would say typically, this butternut cultivar would then require X amount of milliliters every 2 minutes or per hour to water on your plant. So you could get that direction from the agronomist that you've seeked, or from the seed companies directly. I'm just going to look for other questions here. All right, I think that's it. It's only from Uvumile. But yeah, I think just to sum up the conversation, so one of my 4 tips that could assist you in really growing your business or your agribusiness or your farm business is enlisting the service of an agronomist, having good relationships with your technical reps. This could be seed reps, chemical reps, or fertilizer reps. Be a member or form part of agri or industry affiliated organizations. They would give you a wealth of information and support that could really grow your agribusiness. And also, you know, have a network of farmers within your community or your farming community, or in different geographic regions that are farming something the same thing that you're farming or similar to. These individuals will assist you in also getting more information or just solving certain challenges that you may be experiencing on your farm. And it doesn't always have to be based on production. It could be general information of how to deal with employees, how to compensate them or remunerate them for a specific task instead of, you know, for the day, or just help you in terms of how to minimize costs in your business, you know, how to make more out of less resources. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. This will be posted live, post this live, it will be posted on YouTube. And as well, please also feel free to comment on the YouTube channel on Private Properties handle. Ask any questions and I will do my best to answer them on YouTube. So yeah, we'll be quite interactive on that platform as well. But thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you a great weekend ahead. And yeah, please tune in next week, Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Hopefully we'll have another guest on that show. And I think for me, that's it for today. And yeah, once again, have a good weekend and I'll see you next week, Tuesday.